King Charles has named his youngest brother, Prince Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, a title held, of course, by his late father, Prince Philip, for more than 70 years. It had been the late Prince's wish for Prince Edward to be granted the dukedom after his death.
I've got some troubling news about England's royal family.
It's been a bit of a shock.
Do you worry about Republic coming and shouting things? And
everyone has a right to think what they want.
And I felt, you're losing people every single time you have those headlines. We all get that there's a really big urgent.
The royal family is reportedly on fire. Sources close to the palace claim a member of Queen Camilla's family used one of King Charles's private estates without permission, and what allegedly happened next may have crossed a line that could not be quietly walked back. Prince Edward stepped in, and according to insiders, what he did shook the people closest to the throne. This is the story the palace is reportedly working very hard to keep contained. According to accounts circulating among royal watchers, a confrontation unfolded at St. James's Palace, one of the rare evenings when senior royals quietly host London's most powerful aristocrats. For more than 500 years, St. James's has sat at the centre of royal history. It is not a place where scenes happen, and yet, according to these accounts, one did. Tom Parker Bowles, Queen Camilla's son, is said to have crossed the room deliberately, choosing his moment, his audience, and his target. He walked up to Prince Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, and spoke just loud enough for the right people to hear. "Titles are valuable things," he allegedly said. "You understand that better than anyone. But in our world, it is real power that truly matters." He is reported to have added, almost as an afterthought, that someone with so little actual authority hardly needs to worry about what certain people might be doing with the royal estates. The room reportedly went still. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. According to those present, some of the most powerful and well-connected figures in London had just watched a man with no royal title, no official role, and no formal standing publicly challenge a senior member of the British royal family to his face. If accurate, this wasn't just rudeness, it was a direct challenge, deliberate, public, and aimed at exactly the right audience to make it sting. To understand why that moment carried so much weight, you have to understand the two men standing in that room. King Charles gave Edward the title Duke of Edinburgh, the same title their father, Prince Philip, carried with quiet dignity for more than 70 years. For years, Edward was seen as the overlooked brother, too traditional, too rigid, never quite the headline. That changed when Charles reportedly expanded Edward's responsibilities, giving him oversight of the Crown's most private and historically significant properties, estates like Sandringham and Windsor, governed by rules dating back centuries. Edward is said to have taken that role seriously, which is exactly why, if the reports are accurate, Tom's words weren't just an insult. They were a message that Edward's authority meant nothing and that Tom could do as he pleased on royal property without consequence. Tom's access to the royal family's inner circle has reportedly grown fast since Camilla became Queen Consort in September 2022. Some insiders say that access came without caution. It's worth noting Tom has a documented past. In 1999, at the Cannes Film Festival, he admitted to a tabloid sting that he had used cocaine, following earlier warnings at Oxford for cannabis and ecstasy possession. Prince Charles, his godfather, was reportedly furious, and palace officials were said to be alarmed enough to bring Princes William and Harry home for a serious conversation about drugs. These are documented events from the public record, not new allegations. Now, decades later, he was reportedly standing inside a royal palace telling a senior royal he had no real authority and doing it in front of an audience he had chosen himself. According to accounts of the evening, Edward's face reportedly went pale for a moment, his jaw tightening slightly before he settled into something colder and more controlled. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't fire back, he simply fixed Tom with a stare steady enough that Tom is said to have taken a small step back without seeming to realize he'd done it. That stillness, according to those who know him, wasn't weakness, it was calculation. Reacting publicly would have handed Tom exactly the reaction he'd come looking for. So Edward reportedly said nothing at all, at least not out loud. But the humiliation, according to accounts, didn't fade once he stepped away from the group. If anything, it deepened because of what several guests are said to have quietly told him moments later, that Queen Camilla had allegedly been shielding Tom for months, and that his private culinary events had been held in parts of royal estates normally off-limits without direct authorization. This lines up with Tom's public profile. He's a food writer and critic who published Cooking in the Crown in 2024, a cookbook drawing on access to the royal archives at Windsor. Commentators noted at the time that few public figures could use royal ties for commercial gain the way Tom reportedly had, without facing real scrutiny. If the claims made to Edward that night were true, this had gone far beyond a cookbook, and Edward, standing there with those words still landing, reportedly understood exactly what that meant. Not an arrogant relative with a sharp tongue, but someone who may have been using his mother's position to move freely through the royal family's most private spaces, unchecked for months. The question was how far it had actually gone. The answer, according to these accounts, was waiting for him at Sandringham. By the next morning, Edward is reported to have already been on his way to Sandringham. He told almost no one outside a small circle he trusted completely, ordered total discretion from everyone involved, and made sure nothing reached Camilla. Officially, it was framed as a routine estate audit, the kind that fell naturally under his expanded oversight of the royal properties. From the outside, it looked like paperwork. Sandringham isn't just another property, it's a 20,000-acre estate in Norfolk, where King George VI died in 1952, where Queen Elizabeth II returned every winter to mark that anniversary, and where the family has gathered every Christmas for generations. It is, by royal family tradition, one of the most personal places the monarchy owns. It was anything but. According to insider accounts, what Edward found there was troubling from the moment he walked through the entrance. Something felt off, even if he couldn't immediately name it, a heaviness that settled over the rooms as he moved through them. He started in the wing that houses King Charles's personal antique collection, and that was where the first sign stopped him cold. Deep, ugly scratches across the polished wooden floors, long gouges running in multiple directions, consistent, according to these accounts, with heavy furniture being dragged back and forth repeatedly across a floor that had no business being touched that way. Moving through the kitchens and the grand dining room, the house's familiar scent, old wood, beeswax, generations of quiet history, was reportedly gone, replaced by traces of cooking oil and spice that lingered despite obvious attempts to clean them away. Someone, it seemed, had worked hard to erase what had happened there. They hadn't fully succeeded. Maintenance logs reportedly showed a pattern hidden among the routine entries, clusters of unscheduled work orders, all tied to large-scale food preparation, none carrying a royal name or an official visit record. Every single one logged the same vague, deliberately meaningless note, private event at senior request. Sources say this had allegedly been happening for 6 months, not once, repeatedly. It was at that point that an elderly steward who had reportedly served Sandringham for decades approached Edward carefully, choosing his words the way someone does when they're testing whether they can trust their own voice. According to this account, he mentioned, almost in passing, that Tom Parker Bowles had made use of the King's drawing room some months back for a few private parties. Nothing significant, he added quickly. Nothing significant. But Edward had already seen the flaws. He had already read the logs. The steward's careful words didn't reveal anything new. They confirmed everything. Tom hadn't limited himself to kitchens and dining areas. He had reportedly used King Charles's private drawing room, the most guarded, most personal space in the entire house, as the centerpiece of his events, staging lavish tasting dinners where dishes were presented like showpieces, while, according to these accounts, business deals were quietly arranged in the background. The guests were said to be food industry investors, media contacts, and commercial partners, people for whom the perceived royal endorsement of the setting made Tom's brand instantly more valuable. If true, staff who had served the Crown loyally for years were placed in an impossible position, ordered to prepare, serve and maintain the estate for private commercial gatherings, and told to say nothing about it. Their loyalty belonged to the King. They'd reportedly been asked to betray it in silence. Continuing through the estate's records, Edward reportedly found a formal catering order for an upcoming event, signed by Tom. In the approval section, 5 words, property released for use by family directive, vague. Deliberately so, some suggest, using family rather than naming Charles directly, in a way that staff might reasonably assume implied the King's approval. Under UK law, using misleading language to secure access to property under a false claim of authority raises serious legal and fraud implications, a matter for legal review rather than assumption. Edward is said to have photographed the document and sought out a long-time footman, who, after being reassured no harm would come to him, reportedly confirmed the approvals had come from Camilla herself, and that staff had been told not to inform Charles, with the matter dismissed as too minor to trouble him. If accurate, the timing makes it far more serious. Charles publicly announced his cancer diagnosis on February 5, 2024, and spent much of the following months undergoing treatment and stepping back from public duties, a period he described as a bit of a shock. Sources say the alleged Sandringham arrangement continued throughout this time, without his knowledge. It's worth noting this wouldn't be the first time Camilla has faced claims of working outside the public eye. Prince Harry's 2023 memoir, Spare, included accusations that she leaked details of private royal conversations to the press. These are Harry's published claims, not confirmed facts, and Camilla has not been shown to have responded to every individual allegation. Rather than staying quiet, Edward reportedly requested an immediate private meeting with Charles and laid out everything he'd found, the photographs, the logs, the document with the 5 words that changed everything. According to accounts of the meeting, Charles's reaction moved from surprise to a controlled, quiet anger. For a man who had defended his relationship with Camilla for decades against public criticism and his own son's early objections, this was reportedly a different kind of wound. Charles is said to have written to Tom directly, demanding a full explanation within 24 hours. Notably, according to these accounts, the letter was addressed only to Tom, not Camilla. The letter reportedly leaked within hours, and word moved quickly through London's social circles. Tom is said to have gone ahead with another event at Sandringham anyway, apparently confident the matter would blow over. Mid-event, according to witnesses cited in these reports, Edward arrived unannounced and ordered it shut down on the spot, telling the room, in front of investors and media contacts, that this was a direct order from the king over an unauthorized use of royal property. Camilla was reportedly not present. Tom is said to have tried to frame it as a misunderstanding, but estate officials made clear the order stood. According to palace sources, Charles called an emergency closed-door meeting at Buckingham Palace. Senior advisors, private secretaries, Edward, Tom and Camilla. Camilla reportedly described the situation as a misunderstanding, framed as an effort to support her son's career. Royal legal advisors are said to have made clear this went well beyond the boundaries of her role, approving commercial use of the king's private property without his knowledge. Tom's defense reportedly collapsed when the Sandringham estate secretary confirmed the events were structured business gatherings, not casual visits, and that Camilla had personally authorized them. Additional documents are said to have raised further questions, including alleged unauthorized use of royal titles and crests in business materials, a serious matter given UK legal protections around royal warrants, and questions about payments tied to accessing other venues. If accurate, this points to a pattern rather than an isolated incident, though it should be stressed these remain unconfirmed insider claims, not established findings. Weeks later, an internal inquiry reportedly concluded quietly, as the palace tends to handle its most sensitive matters without public statements. According to sources, Camilla was temporarily stepped back from a portion of her official duties, with responsibilities rerouted through the king's senior team. Tom is said to have lost access to royal properties entirely, closing the door on the informal channels that had reportedly fueled his public profile. Palace insiders describe a noticeably changed atmosphere around Camilla since, and suggest the distance between her and Charles, already quietly observed since his diagnosis, may have deepened. Whether that trust can be rebuilt is by all accounts still an open question. What is clear is that Edward made a decision others around him reportedly hadn't been willing to make, choosing to bring uncomfortable truths directly to the king rather than let them stay buried.